The Madrid Metro is a metro system serving the city of Madrid, capital of Spain. The system is the 8th longest metro in the world, though Madrid is approximately the 50th most populous metropolitan area in the world. Its fast growth in the last 20 years has also put it among the fastest growing networks in the world, rivaling many Asian metros such as the Shanghai Metro, Guangzhou Metro, Beijing Subway or the Delhi Metro. Unlike normal Spanish road and rail traffic, which uses right-hand drive, Madrid Metro trains use left-hand running on all lines for historical reasons. The Madrid Metro operates every day from 6 a.m. until 1:30 a.m. A light rail system feeding the metro opened in 2007 called Metro Ligero. The Cercanias system works in conjunction with the metro servicing medium-distance travel to and across the city. Some underground stations are large enough to hold public events, such as the 3-day fitness festival in May 2011, which attracted 2,600 visitors. One station contains a 200-square-meter archaeological museum. Madrid Metro has 1,698 escalators, the most of any system in the world. History. The first line of the Madrid Metro opened on October 17, 1919 under the direction of the Company +or-A de Metro Alfonso XIII, with 8 stations and 3.5 kilometers. The Madrid Metro is the first metro system in Spain and the second in the Spanish-speaking world after the Buenos Aires Underground. It was constructed in a narrow section and the stations had 60 platforms. The enlargement of this line and the construction of 2 others followed shortly after 1919. In 1936, the network had 3 lines and a branch line between Opera and Norte railway station. All these stations served as air raid shelters during the Spanish Civil War. After the Civil War, the public works to extend the network went on little by little. In 1944, a 4th line was constructed and it absorbed the branch of Line 2 between Goya and Diego de Leeuwarden in 1958, a branch that had been intended to be part of Line 4 since its construction but was operated as a branch of Line 2 until the construction of Line 4. In the 1960s, a suburban railway was constructed between Plaza de España +or-A and Carabanchel, linked to Lines 2 and 3. A 5th metro line was constructed as well with narrow section but 90 platforms. Shortly after opening the first section of Line 5, the platforms in Line 1 were enlarged from 60 to 90 closing Chambera station since it was too close to Iglesia. Chambera has been closed ever since and has recently been opened as a museum. In the early 1970s, the network was greatly expanded to cope with the influx of population and urban sprawl from Madrid's economic boom. New lines were planned with large 115 platforms. Lines 4 and 5 were enlarged as well. In 1979, bad management led to a crisis. Works already started were finished during the 1980s and all remaining projects were abandoned. After all those projects, 100 kilometers of rail track had been completed and the suburban railway had also disappeared since it had been extended to Alonso Martinez and thence converted to Line 10. At the beginning of the 1990s, control of the network was transferred to a public enterprise, Metro de Madrid. More large-scale expansion projects were carried out. Lines 1, 4 and 7 were extended and a new Line 11 was constructed towards the outlying areas of Madrid. Lines 8 and 10 were joined together into a longer Line 10 and a new Line 8 was constructed to expand the underground network towards the airport. The enlarged Line 9 was the first to leave the outskirts of Madrid to arrive in Rivas Vaciar Madrid and Arganda del Rey, 2 towns located in the southeast suburbs of Madrid. In the early 2000s, a huge problem installed approximately 50 kilometers of new metro tunnels. This construction included a direct connection between downtown Madrid and the airport, the lengthening of Line 8, and adding service to the outskirts with a huge 40 km loop called Metro Sur serving Madrid's southern suburbs. Metro Sur, one of the largest ever civil engineering projects in Europe, opened on April 11, 2003. It includes 41 kilometers of tunnel and 28 new stations, including a new interchange station on Line 10. Which connects it to the city centre and stations linking to the local train network. Its construction began in June 2000 and the whole loop was completed in less than 3 years. It connects Getafe, Mar Cubed Stoles, Alcorca Cubed N, Fuenlabrada, and Legana Copyright S, 5 towns located in the area south of Madrid. Most of the current efforts of Madrid regional government are channeled towards the enlargement of the metro network. In the 2003 to 2007 term, President Esperanza Aguirre funded a multi-billion-dollar project, which has added to, joined, or extended almost all of the metro lines. The project included the addition of 90 kilometers and the construction of 80 new stations. It has carried the underground railway to many districts that had never previously had metro servicing to the eastern and northern outskirts as well. For the first time in Madrid, 3 interurban light rail lines were built to the western outskirts, ML2 and ML3, and to the new northern districts of San Genaro and Las Tublas, ML1. As a last-minute addition, a project on Line 8 connected it to the new T4 terminal of Madrid Barajas Airport. Future expansion: there are numerous expansion and improvement projects pending. Many suspended due to the current financial crisis. For example, Lines 1 and 5 reaching Valdebebas, extending Line 11 further north towards Atocha railway station and beyond, as well as extending Line 9 to the north, opening the station Arroyo del Fresno on Line 7 and extending Line 3 further south. Station design and setup. Stations in the Madrid Metro reveal their age in their design. Older stations on the narrow lines are often quite compact, similar to the stations on the Paris Metro. They were decorated with tilings in different color schemes depending on the station. In recent years, most of these stations have been refurbished with single-colored plates matching those in the newest ones. The stations built between the late 70s and the early 90s are slightly more spacious and most of them have cream-colored walls. On the other hand, the most recent stations are built with space in mind, and are considered amongst the best in the world for their natural-like lighting and ample entryways. The color scheme varies between stations, using single-colored plates and covering the whole station in light colors. Recently built transfer stations have white walls, but this is not the norm. Most stations are built with 2 side platforms, and a handful of them have a central island platform in addition to the side platforms theoretically dedicated to exits. This system was originally used on the Barcelona Metro and is called the Spanish solution. Stations with this setup include, Line 2 Cuatro Caminos, Line 4 Arga 1/4 Ls, Line 5 Campamento, Carabanchel, Line 6 Avenida de Arma Copyright Rica, Manuel Becerra, Zahins de Baranda, Paca Fico, Plaza Elefdica, Oporto, Laguna, Line 7 Avenida de Arma Copyright Rica, Pueblo Nuevo. Some stations have cross-platform interchange arrangement which allows extremely fast transfers between 2 lines. The only stations with this setup are Prao and Cipe Palo and Casa de Campo. On both occasions, Line 10 uses the outside tracks, so passengers unboarding there leave through the right side of the train instead of the usual left side. In addition, a few stations are built with just one island platform instead of the usual side platforms. These stations are, Line 3 Armed Rails, Villaverde Alto, Line 5 Aluche, Line 8 Campo de las Naciones, Aeropuerto T4, Line 9 Rivas Urbanizations, Arganda del Rey, Line 10 Joaquin Villambrales. Another system is where there is one island platform with one side platform. This system is used in the stations on Line 7, 9 and 10 where it is required for passengers to change to smaller trains to continue their journeys, normally to towns outside Madrid like Alcobendas or Coslada. This is done so the island platform can be used for passengers to change easily between trains. These stations are, Line 7 Estadio Olimpico, Line 9 Puerta de Arganda, Line 10 Tis Olivos. Overhead power supply system. Since 1999 Metro de Madrid has used a patented system for its installations, a solid rail hung from the ceiling of the tunnels, instead of the usual copper or aluminium wire hung from overhead gantries at regular intervals. This type of overhead catenary line is rigid, making it more robust and less prone to failures. Installations outside of tunnels are rare, as they require many more support structures compared to traditional wire-based overhead lines, making them more expensive to install. This system of rigid overhead power supply is also used in other metro systems. Lines. The metro network has 231 stations on 12 lines plus one branch line, totaling 282 kilometers, of which approximately 92% is underground. The only surface parts are Impalm Eugenia de Montijo, Largo Casa de Campo and Puerta de Arganda del Rey. Additionally, some 30 kilometers of Metro Ligero lines serve the various regions of the metropolitan area which have been deemed not populated enough to justify the extraordinary spending of new metro lines. Most of the ML track length is on surface, usually running on platforms separated from normal road traffic. However, ML1 line has some underground stretches and stations. Traditionally, the Madrid Metro was restricted to the city proper, but today nearly one-third of its track length runs outside the border of the Madrid municipality. Today, the metro network is divided in 5 regions: Metro Madrid, the core network inside the Madrid city borders, with over 2/3 of the overall length. Also includes the light rail line. Metro Sur line and the last 2 stations of line, Joaquín en Villambrales and Puerta del Sur. Runs through the southern cities of Alcorcón, Leganés, Copyright S, Getafe, Fuenlabrada and Mar Stoles. Metro Est, a prolongation of line from Estadio Olímpico to Hospital de Ginés through the municipalities of Coslada and San Fernando de Ginés. Metro Norte, opened in 2007, includes the stretch of line from La Granja to Hospital Infanta Sofía. Services the northern outskirts of Madrid in the towns of Alcobendas and San Sebastián de los Reyes. There is a train interchange inside the line at Olivos station. Metro Est, comprised by the Metro Ligero lines and connects the towns of Pozuelo de Alcorcón and Bodega del Monte to line at Colonia Jada N station. TFM, a prolongation of line from Puerta de Arganda, the first ever outside the borders of Madrid, services the cities of Rivas Vaca, Madrid and Arganda del Rey. At most of the borders between the regions, one has to switch trains even when staying in the same line, because the train frequency is higher in the core Metro Madrid than in the outer regions. Madrid also has an extensive commuter train network operated by Renfe, the national rail line, which is intermodal with the metro network. In fact, 22 Cercanias stations have connections to the metro network, which is indicated on the official map by the Cercanias logo. Many of the new lines since 1999 have been built to link to or end at Cercanias stations, like the ML2 line, which ends at the Aravaca station, providing a fast entry into Madrid, though the C7 or C10 commuter lines and arriving in only one step to the bus and metro hub PRA and CIPE PAO. Notes: line is a shuttle service. Old stations are not accessible to people with disabilities, but since 1995 all new stations must be accessible by law. Thus, both new stations and renewed old ones have elevators for people on wheelchairs, huge signs for the visually impaired, etc. All narrow loading gauge lines except Line had originally 60m platforms. Line was the first to have theirs extended to 90m, while Line had to wait until the 2000s. Prior to its recent extension to the southern district of Villaverde, it was completely closed for nearly a year and thoroughly renewed. Thus, one of the worst lines of the network, both in terms of trains and facilities, became the shiniest between the narrow-gauged, and was the first to receive the all-new construction's Y Auxilia de Ferrocarril Series 3000 trains. Configurations: M, engine; R, passive; S, cabless engine. Dashes mean crossable complete basic unit separation, while their absence implies a walkable aisle throughout the joined units. Alstom's Citadis 302 tramways have one motor car, one suspended, one with bogie but without motors, one suspended, one motor. The 3ML lines are 1,435 mm standard gauge. All other lines use 1,445 mm gauge, the only railway using a specific Italian gauge outside of Italy. Rolling stock. Traditionally, the trains operating in the Madrid Metro have been built and supplied by the Spanish company Construcciones y Auxilia de Ferrocarriles. This was particularly true under Francisco Franco's dictatorship, due to the politic of autarky his administration initially pursued. However, despite CAF still working nowadays for Metro, in recent years the Italian Ansaldo Breda has also provided trains for the wide-profile lines. Every rolling unit in the Madrid Metro has a unique ID that singles it out in the whole network. Those IDs are grouped by the rolling unit model and thus is used to categorize the trains, as they bear no user-visible statement of the model specified by the manufacturer. An ID is made up of a letter indicating the type of rolling unit, M for a car with both engines and driver's cabin, R for an engineless car, with or without driver's cabin, and S for a cabinless car with engines. A dash separating the two components, a 3 or 4-digit number indicating the unit series and the position within it. Usually, the series is indicated by the thousands and hundreds. Equals train sets currently in use equals. Narrow profile. CAF Series 2000, this series has two separate sub-series usually called A and B. The first batch, while reliable and practical, was extremely box-like in its looks. They are nicknamed Pandas, after a car by seat with the same name and similar boxy design. In contrast, the B sub-series train sets can be told apart by its sleeker, rounder forms, which has granted them the nickname of Bubble for their round driver cabin window. Series 2000A are currently the more numerous in the network. 530 cars were built and delivered between 1985 and 1993, having serviced every narrow-profile line. They are also among the oldest stock in operation in the Madrid Metro, so some of them have been scheduled for retirement with the purchase of newer Series 3000 sets. However, the most reliable ones are being refurbished and painted with new, lighter colors like the ones used in Series 3000, and will continue to service line for the time being. Series 2000B were delivered in lesser numbers between 1997 and 1998, with the inclusion of air conditioning and station announcements through pre-recorded voice messages and LED displays. They are currently used in line, with no plans for retirement. CAF Series 3000, the newest of the narrow-line train sets, Series 3000 were commissioned for the reopening of line after its complete renewal in the early 2000s. Their constituent subunits can be completely joined through crossable articulations, making it possible to go from the head to the tail without actually exiting the train. This has earned them the nickname of BOA, a term usually applied in Spain to double-length buses with such joints. They are currently servicing lines but newer purchases are also scheduled to replace the trains in lines and before 2010. Series 3000 trains look rather like a narrowed version of Series 8000, while the interior uses mainly yellow and light blue tones. Wide profile. CAF Series 5000, currently servicing line and occasionally line, this model has had a long history. The first train sets were delivered in 1974 for the newly opened, first wide-profile line, while the latest subseries, 5500, of which 24 train sets of 6 cars each were built, entered service in 1993. They were the last to use the old, square box-like design from CAF, which was already becoming unpopular for its exaggerate priming of effectiveness versus aesthetics. The first iteration featured a wood-look-alike coating for the inner walls and a novel seat distribution in 2 seat rows perpendicular to the train walls, making them look not unlike older regional trains. Subseries 5100 to 5200 returned to the traditional seating along the train walls, but still included another feature from the first iteration, automatic opening of all the gates in the train. The final subseries, 5500, has a distinct, darker color scheme and returns to the usual on-demand opening of train gates with a button on each one. Being the oldest rolling stock in operation in the wide-profile lines, many cars were retired or sold to the Buenos Aires Underground for operation on Line B to make up for shortfalls on the line following extensions. CAF Series 6000, this model, of which 29 train sets were built and delivered in 1998, was the first by CAF to feature a new, sleeker and rounder design. As it was to serve TFM, the stretch of line connecting Madrid to Arganda del Rey, Its interior resembles the regional Cercanias trains more closely than any other metro trains, compact seats and couples set perpendicularly to the train walls, more places to grasp in case of a sudden brake acceleration, etc. They were also the first to include luminous panels stating their destination, as the line they service was effectively split in two stretches, and travelers had to switch trains at Puerto de Arganda. Finally, they primed the BOA train layout, but the walkable aisle only spanned 2 cars, while a train set would usually carry 4 or 6. Series 6000 is currently doing occasional service for line. In 2013, 73 of the 108 cars ordered were sold to Buenos Aires for operation on Line B of the metro system. The sale totaled a $32.6 million for the retirement of Japanese-built units, with a further 13 cars ordered at a later date. These trains have been widely criticized in Argentina, and been called the worst purchase in the history of the Buenos Aires Underground. And sold Breda Series 7000 and 9000. The first purchase to a manufacturer other than CAF, and to a non-Spanish dealer, 37 Series 7000 train sets service the extremely busy line, while occasionally venturing out into line for rush hour support. They were the first in the network to feature a full BOA layout, allowing commuters to traverse the whole 6 cars. They are extremely functional, with ample 1.3m doors and a sleek, unobtrusive design for a total capacity of 1,260 people per train set. This model also features 2 TV screens in each car, but they are left unused, both regularly or in emergencies. Series 9000 trains are similar to their previous incarnation, but include better accesses for disabled people and more safety measures, such as visual and auditive warnings for the train gates and more effective emergency brakes. Series 7000 currently service the main part of line, from Puerto del Sur to Tis Olivos. While Series 9000 comprise the main fleet of line, the part of from Tis Olivos to Hospital Infanta Sofia, and are occasionally used for rush hour support on. The next batch has already started entering service online before 2009, replacing the part of the 15-year-old CAF 5000 fleet. CAF Series 8000, originally designed for the Metro Sur line, 45 train sets were built and delivered by CAF in 2002. Each one is composed of 3 cars joined in the BOA layout, which service line is, while Metro Sur service uses 2 such train sets to form an MRM configuration for a maximum of 1,070 passengers. The interior distribution is rather like that of Series 7000, with a bigger clear area in the first car for people carrying luggage to from the airport and disabled people in wheelchairs. Like the narrower Series 3000 train sets, its bogies are insonorized and feature a hybrid rubber pneumatic suspension system. Series 8000 primed the introduction of regenerative braking in the Madrid Metro. The system reverses the normal circuit of the electric motors when braking, thus making the deceleration return power to the network. Also, they feature the now standard informative panels and gate activity warnings in the interior. This model has a stable population, which neither purchases nor retirements planned as of 2008, though as the most current model from CAF it remains on the table for future enlargements of the metro network. It currently services lines and, while also providing rush hour support to lines and CAF Series 8400. Derived from the recent Series 8000 trains, the 8400 series are the newest train type to enter service on the Madrid Metro online since 2010 to complement the older Series 5000 and newer Series 9000 trains serving on that line. Light rail. Alstom's Citadis 302, the vehicles serving the light rail lines are low-floor articulated trams in a 5-section BOA configuration, which allows for a maximum of about 200 passengers per tram. They can reach a top speed of 100 km per hour, but in practice they are limited to 70 km per hour in most track stretches, and even less in urban sprawls. The tram features a bell-like proximity warning that is activated when the train approaches a station or a level crossing with pedestrians, which has stirred complaints from people living near the tracks for the noise generated. Safety features also include door activity warnings for passengers and emergency brakes, comparatively more effective than in any other train dedicated to metro service, as the trams, though remaining in their own lanes separated from other traffic, can cross roads and populated areas. Currently, Metro Ligero has 3 lines, but there is a 4th one to be constructed, Metro Ligero 1 line Mil 1, Pinar de Chamata N, Las Tuplas, 5. 4 kilometers and 9 stations, 5 of which are underground. Metro Ligero 2 line Mil 2, Colonia Jardín a Euro Estacia Cube Dendi Aravaca, 8, 7 kilometers y 13 stations, 3 of which are underground. Metro Ligero 3 line Mil 3, Colonia Jardín a Euro Puerta de Bodela, 13, 7 kilometers y 16 stations, 2 of which are underground. Metro Ligero 4 line Mil 4, Tranvía de Pala, 8, 3 kilometers y 15 stations. Historic rolling stock equals. Until the early 1990s and the transfer of the metro system to the Autonomous Community of Madrid, the rate of investment in the network by the central government was extremely low, and thus very old trains were used way beyond their intended lifespans. Particularly loathed was the case of Line, which was serviced by the nearly 40-year-old Series 300 and 1000 from CAF. It was not uncommon that a child would ride to school on the same train her parents took decades earlier. Some renewals, along with the purchases of Series 2000A and 5000, were started by the socialist regional government of Jocua en Liguana, but in 1995 the People's Party took over the government with the promise to widely extend and improve the metro service. New lines were built and old ones refurbished. Line service was disturbed for several years as some stations at a time were closed and refitted, while Line was closed for 2 consecutive summers in order to expand its platforms to 90m. Then, new rolling stock was also requested. 1998 saw the arrival of the first CAF Series 2000B, retiring the infamous Series 1000. Initially the better-preserved Series 300 were refitted and painted in the new blue-white color scheme, but they were also retired with the arrival of more Series 2000B and, finally, Series 3000. Fares. The Madrid Metro network is split into the 6 functional zones mentioned above. Each one has a single ticket, valid for 1 trip within the zone, and a 10-trip ticket for a comparatively lower price. When crossing zone boundaries, one has to buy a new ticket for the zone being entered. There is also a combined ticket, which provides for a single trip between any 2 points of the network except the airport stations, which have an additional supplement of a 3. All in all, it is possible to go from the airport to any other point of the network for up to a 5.00. Also, the Consorcio Regional de Transportes has a division of its own, with geographic zones named A through C2. This body sells monthly and annual passes for unlimited trips within their zone of validity, and also a range of tourist passes for 1, 3, 5 or 7 days. All of them are accepted at the metro stations within their zones, and passengers using a CRT pass do not have to pay the airport supplement. Operators. The metro is operated by its own company, under the Department of Public Works, City Planning, and Transportation of the Autonomous Community of Madrid. The passage between Puerta de Arganda and Arganda del Rey is operated by Transportes Ferroviarios de Madrid. All of Madrid's rapid transit systems are members of the Consorcio Regional de Transportes, which sells monthly passes for unlimited use of the metro, bus and commuter train networks within the area covered by the pass. See also: Barcelona Metro, Bilbao Metro, Palma Metro, Málaga Metro, Seville Metro, Valencia Metro, List of metro systems. Notes. External links: Metro de Madrid, official site, schematic map of the metro network Euro from the official site, Madrid at urbanrail.net, Consorcio Regional de Transportes de Madrid, and a copyright N1 Euro Association of Friends of Madrid Metro, English user guide, ticket types, airport supplement and timings, network map.